Is this working? Okay. Here at the Independence Reformed Bible Church, we do allow for questions following the morning service. Who has the first question? Yeah, Toby.
On the subject of perseverance and overcoming, Seth even mentioned his prayer. Could you just touch on the South Africa, what's going on there, and how we can pray for those folks?
Yeah, if you heard Toby's question, he's referencing what Seth prayed in his prayer this morning about what's happening in South Africa right now. Who here has followed that mess? A few of you have. What's happened is the political leadership of South Africa has voted, nice and democratic-like, to attack the property, if not the persons, of the predominantly white farmers in South Africa. And basically what they're saying, they're making it very racist, and they're saying, we're going to take the land away from the white farmers. And they've done this very publicly. There's a few things we can talk about this. Ramaphosa, if that's how you say his name, is their new premier. They got rid of Jacob Zuma. Zuma was the old premier, the old prime minister, if you will, president, I think they really call him. And if I can just explain this a little bit. The old guy, Zuma, who they just kicked out, was your basic corrupt politician, thieving guy. He was the guy that was in it for the women and the money and the power and the prestige and the trips. Guys like that are bad enough. But as we say, the only thing worse than a bureaucrat who doesn't care is a bureaucrat who cares. Ramaphosa cares. And he's all about destroying the white South African farmers. And he has said, and now the parliament is backing him up, that we are going to take their farms away. This has tremendous implications. First of all, it's going to turn South Africa into a complete African basket case. I know a tiny little bit of what I'm talking about. Having spent some time in Zimbabwe, South Africa is following the road that Zimbabwe already traveled, because Mugabe, when he was in Zimbabwe, it used to be Rhodesia, and Rhodesia was a very productive country at one time in southern Africa. Extremely productive. All the stuff you hear about Africa being a desert and a basket case, it wasn't always true. It's becoming that way because people will not obey Christ and take dominion over the resources. And Zimbabwe, I think I might have mentioned this before, I'll just mention it again real quickly. This is Romans 1 type stuff. Remember how we talked about how Paul says their foolish hearts were darkened? You know, not their enlightened hearts. Their already foolish hearts were darkened. They're already foolish. And they got worse. Bad picture. And in Zimbabwe, when I was there were all these pictures of Mugabe. He was in power then. I don't know if I'll just mention again quickly. I saw these pictures of him, Mugabe. Why am I seeing this guy? This bloody dictatorial guy who only understands one thing, power and destruction. Why am I seeing this picture all the time? And Charles, my host, explained to me, he says, well, in Zimbabwe, it's a law that every time money is exchanged, you have to have, it's as if you're doing it under the picture of Zimbabwe, of Mugabe. He knows and he sees you. My friends, don't ever misunderstand that when you kick out the real God, you got to get another God, and that other God always seems to have characteristics kind of like the real God, if you notice. In this case, it's omnipresence by Mugabe. He's always present. Whenever you exchange money, the irony is that Rhodesia at one time had a thriving economy with their own currency. By the time Mugabe got done with it, he had destroyed their currency. They were taking whole wheelbarrowfuls of money and buying things like a couple loaves of bread. And they had like $1 billion notes, billions and billions of dollars or whatever their currency was. And now he's destroyed it so badly that Zimbabwe, they only use US dollars. That's the currency. So the irony is the guy that we're supposed to be grateful for, Mugabe, just thrilled that we can exchange money because he's so benevolent, so wonderful. He's the very guy that destroyed their economy, and they still have to have his picture up there. Zimbabwe is a basket case. Have to import food. They used to export food. It's just a disaster. South Africa, for an example of their foolish hearts being darkened, is now following the example set by Zimbabwe. They're going to throw out their farmers, and you're talking about people who don't know anything about farming. They're going to come and take over. There were reports of people, for example, you guys from Lancaster County will get this. You get a laugh out of this, and it would be funny if it weren't so sad. But there were people that apparently took over the farms in Zimbabwe, and they knew so much about farming that they were surprised when the corn didn't grow the next year. They thought it was like, hey, you know, it just comes up each year, and you just go out and pick the corn. And all we do is like sit back on our hands and harvest the corn. I mean, these are the kind of people that are going to take over these farms, my friends. And they're going to destroy everything. And they're going to destroy the farms, and they're trying to destroy any vestiges of Christianity, and they are kicking out people out of the country who happen to be white. Now, you and I have got to get past this idea that these pagans who look real nice and have nice ties and nice dresses and get on television and comment on things, and they always talk about the big one, racism. They're really against racist. You have to understand that they're the biggest racist of all, because nobody's talking about what's happening in South Africa and the destruction of a race, by the way. The destruction of a race. That's what's going on. And I called Charles here recently and talked to him. And one of the things that's very sad about this, and please hear me on this, my friends. I know that here at IRBC, you know, we talk about things that may not be talked about at other places. And there are those, I know the charge has come against me by some people. You know, you don't stick to the gospel. You talk about other things. Of course, my response to that is, well, I hope I explain the whole counsel of God. And I really don't see a difference between the whole counsel of God and the gospel. I kind of see them as the same thing, if that's okay. This past weekend, we had a discussion about Rwanda, the genocide in Rwanda with some people. How many of you remember that or know about that, the Rwandan genocide? That was horrible. The killing done there wasn't with guns. It was done with machetes. The United Nations basically had disarmed the entire country and then turned a blind eye while the Hutus gathered machetes and the Tutsis didn't have anything. Took away all their means to be able to defend themselves. And I know we have that discussion going on now. It doesn't really seem like much to be able to defend yourself, but if the other guy has a machete and you got nothing, you're at a distinct disadvantage. Why am I saying all this? What am I talking about? Well, here's the thing. In South Africa now, they are taking away those people who believe in Christ. They're taking away their ability to even defend themselves. And they are setting them up for genocide. And it's happening right under our noses. And all these people that use the R word all the time, racist, don't seem to care about it at all. These are the kind of things, though, my friends, that we want to talk about, that we want to explain to you as a congregation, that we want you to understand. And this is my point about the whole Rwandan thing. This is why I brought it up. The people that took part in the genocide, on the killing side, were church-going people. This is established beyond a shadow of a doubt. They were churched people. Apparently all they thought was they just have to believe in Jesus so they can go to heaven. I don't know what they were taught. but they were not taught the whole counsel of God. And I know that we fail many times to, well, I'm sure we do. We don't have time. I'm sure that we fail in teaching, in being the best teachers, put it that way. Okay, that's a great revelation. We fail in being the best, okay. There's a news flash. I'm sure you didn't know that. But I'm sure there's much more we could explain. But we try to explain the whole counsel of God. And we at least try to be able to explain to you that there are dear people that are in dear churches that have some sort of an idea of the gospel that still allows them to go out and kill their neighbors. What I'm saying is this. Ramaphosa, who is saying publicly, the president of South Africa, we're going to go and we're going to take these farmers away. We're not going to kill them. We're just going to take their stuff away. All right? Which is very damaging to a lot of black folks there, too, because a lot of black folks have jobs on these farms. And guess what? They're not going to have much of a job by the time these geniuses take over. Here's the thing that worries me a lot. I was talking to Charles about this. He said, you know what? He said, the Christians don't even get it here. He says, you know why? He says, because Ramaphosa at one time was like president of some Christian club when he was in college. And they're like, oh, this is a great guy. He's a good Christian. Why? He was president of a Christian club. What more do you want? That's what happens when you don't get the whole counsel of God, my friends. You can be faked out by a guy. Yeah, I was president of a Christian club. Oh, by the way, I'm going to take away all your property. I don't know what. I guess a good Christian, head of a Christian club, does a good, they're going to do a better job of taking away the property than they did in Zimbabwe. They're going to do it right. In Zimbabwe, they stole the land. They did it wrong. We're going to do it right. And Charles told me that Christians don't even get it. Horrible. So while I know we fail, we do try here to explain the entire counsel of God. It's one of the reasons why we have our question and answer time, our Q&A time, if you will. It's horrible what's going on there. There's going to be a lot of more bloodshed. And the world and the UN, that group to keep the peace in the world, they're going to be on the side, they already are, on the side of the killers. It's happening. We have friends there, Charles van Veek, Peter Hammond, who are both coming to our conference, by the way, in October. Who else has a question? Yes, John.
This one, not on South Africa.
Back to you see, it's very comfortable with that topic.
Yep.
It seems like be comfortable with that. What, actually 3 sounds.
The idea about bowing down at feet. I have 3 cross references, all to Isaiah.
Again.
One from Isaiah chapter 60, verse 14.
Please read that.
Yeah. It said, the sons of those who afflicted you will come bowing to you, and all those who despise you will bow themselves at the soles of your feet, and they will call you the city of the Lord, the Zion of the Holy One of Israel.
That's definitely a parallel reference.
Yes.
Because that terminology is used, and plus the city is also used.
Right. So the idea that I think of you will be victorious, and your enemies will see your victory is what's in view there. It's translated as they're going to come and worship you. But every place else in the Bible where men are being worshipped,
it says worship before your feet. I don't think it means we're going to worship you.
They may worship our God.
Right, true.
At their feet.
At their feet.
At the feet of their victors.
Yeah, good. This is good. What other, do you have some other?
Well, the others are in Isaiah, they're 45:14. It's a little bit lengthier, but it's the same idea. Thus says the Lord, the products of Egypt and the merchandise of Cush and the Sabaeans, men of stature, will come over to you and will be yours. They will walk behind you. They will come over in chains and will bow down to you. They will make supplication to you. Surely God is with you, and there is none else, no other God. Same idea.
Same idea for sure.
And then in 40, 9:23. Kings will be your guardians, and their princesses your nurses. They will bow down to you with their faces to the earth and lick the dust of your feet. And you will know that I am the Lord. Those who hopefully wait for me will not be put to shame. Same idea as all
Those three are the same ideas as what we have. in
all
Revelation.
conquering, all
Yeah.
victorious.
Yeah, and very sweeping. I mean, lick dust. I mean, talking about feet here again. Good, excellent insights there of total victory.
They're in my margins.
Yeah, well, great study, great insights. Thank you. I did not get those insights when I was studying. That's one of the reasons why we have Q&A time. So thank you. Excellent. Well, can you just say those references again, if you have them?
Isaiah 45:14, 49:23, and 60:14.
Okay. All right. Thank you, John. Excellent. So that concept is in the Bible. Yeah. Despite the fact that I couldn't seem to find it. That's right. Yeah, it's good. Thank you. Great insight. Who else? Oh,
So this stuff always stands out to me. So Rab Shukah, or whatever his name was,
Yeah.
really blasphemed God. All the men remained silent and went back to Hezekiah. So obvious, and they were not condemned for that at all.
Right, at that
It was
point.
just time to
Right.
be quiet. And that question always comes up to me. We see this blaspheming all the time. When you remain silent, obviously, we're dependent on the Holy Spirit to direct us, but is there something here that we should see about when to remain silent and when to speak up?
yeah. Question being, I said that Eliakim was faithful, but he said nothing to the Rabshakeh at that time. Neither did the other two guys say anything. So when,
Anybody on the wall?
yeah,
Right.
yeah, the king is saying no. Here's the thing that I'm wrestling with in this. I'm wrestling with this. What if Hezekiah does what many of the other kings did? Okay, how much money do you want to get out of here? That's what most of them did. Instead, he went all in, and he basically said, "I'm going to go to God, and if God doesn't do anything, nothing's happening here today." At a minimum, it seems to me that I think our struggle so much, as I wrestled with this, our struggle so much is not what we have to do in each individual situation. I think it's more an idea of how much at peace we are with the enemies of God. I think that's the bigger question here. And they were definitely not at peace with the enemies of God. They didn't say anything right there, but it's not like they didn't say anything. They went back, they told Hezekiah. Hezekiah says, we're going to Isaiah on this. We know he's a man of God, and we're going to see what he has to say before we start this negotiation thing. And the thing was, they went all in on it. So while they didn't say anything then, their view of it was still a all or nothing type of a view. Yeah, which I see the same thing with the Philadelphians. It was an all or nothing thing. Is it possible that at times we get a little bit too caught up in when do I say, when do I not? Maybe it is. What we can't be questioning is, are we all in or are we not? They were definitely all in. That to me seems like the bigger picture. We see guys who, I still believe Nicodemus was sort of gradual, if you will. He starts out going by night. There's a lot of stuff. He says, we know you're a teacher from, we know who you are. I don't think he said much. He's coming at night. Doesn't want people to know. Later on in John 7, he gets in that brief argument with them where they say he's from Galilee. What are you from Galilee too, you idiot? But in the end, there came a time when he had to help Joseph take that body down from the cross, and he was not going to the next Sanhedrin tete-a-tete at the high priest's house. He's never coming back. At that point, he was all in. I do want to leave space for people who are like on the way at some point. But at some point, you're one or the other. At some point. I don't always know where that is with everybody, but it's coming. And I would want to communicate that to every single person. Figure out where you're going, because these Philadelphians, they had to face the Inquisitor. It looks like they did anyway, and had to be faithful. Good question. What other questions? All right, well, thank you. I went a little bit too long on that South Africa thing. Is that how you say it, the South Africa thing? It's a maddening situation.
No, you've been there.
That's right. I was there, so yeah, I'm an expert now. All right, thank you very much for your kind attention this morning.